Welcome everybody, this is Denny with my YouTube channel, Why Is This True? And joining me today is Karl Mollison from the Midwest. And Karl and I are going to continue with our series of channeling sessions from people who are in the light and have something to tell us about their experiences as being involved with either a government cover-up or somewhere involved in the secret space programs, that kind of thing. So we're going to continue with that, and we're going to this one's going to be a bit of a departure. And actually, this person was identified by Karl's primary contact in the light. And so this person, the name that we were given is Robards, and she was involved with the extraterrestrial slave colony. We don't really know whether she was a slave or not, but we're going to find out in this channeling session today. So welcome, Karl. Thanks for joining me again, and thanks for continuing with this series. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you, and I appreciate the effort of all who are watching this and all who take an interest in this troubling and troubled subject. This is not an easy thing that people like yourself are doing. I feel it as I come into your sphere of influence, because all of us are hanging out over an edge, whether we realize it or not. But it's for a good purpose. We need to be aware of everything that's working against humanity, and this is a big undercurrent of subjugation and control that's going on. So we're seeing the tips of the iceberg as people come forward and talk about their involvement with secret programs and so forth. And I suspect this is yet another very sordid and dark chapter that we're going to hear about. I know very little about this myself. I've had clients who know about this. I've had a client who returned from being in this program. And so I am aware of its existence. That's all I know at this point. We'll learn more from this contact. So let me just say quickly something about me, what I'm doing and why, and what my agenda is here. You know, okay. I'm here to be of service, but I also want to be an advocate for thinking about the divine realm and partnering with the divine realm. I've been shown this is the answer that's needed now to bring us to the finish line. All the good notions people get about wanting to see things better in the world, leave a little opening. The divine realm can move into that opening and amplify it and support it, give further nudging to help things move forward. That's what this shift in consciousness is that's been going on for decades and decades now. The more people think good thoughts, the more it's rewarded. But we can do more by asking directly for that help and support in a concerted fashion, in a direct fashion. Not everyone is spiritual these days, but that is the ideal for them personally. And I know and believe this, and I see this as I work with the divine realm every day. And I see Creator of all it is in action and get feedback. This is not bizarre at all. This is the way it's supposed to be. We've been manipulated to not be aware of the divine. So those who are still under the thumb of all that's happened to suppress humanity. So I'm here to help shed some light on things and to remind people that the light is there and there are ways to reach out and embrace it. And so this is what I'm doing with my work and the things that I'm contributing to.
Okay, thank you, Karl. All right.
And let me, one more thing, real brief. I just want to caution people, because I have been cautioned that more than 90% of channelers are being duped. They are not channeling who they think they are. This is a very subtle program that's been done to co-opt the light workers, co-opt the good guys who are seeking knowledge and information. And it's done in a very insidious way, but it can build up to a point where they begin to sprinkle in disinformation and create divergences so people come forward with differing views and conflicting accounts, and that begins to discredit other people, and that's what they want.
Right.
So just know that this is what's happening, unfortunately. And so you all have to be careful out there. I'm doing the very best I can to connect through a heart-based approach with the most sacred and powerful divine source that I can, namely creator of all it is. It's the best I can do and know how to do. And I ask for all sorts of protections and safeguards to be in place and so on. I cannot guarantee 100% anything. I'm doing my best.
Right.
But the warning is there, it applies to everyone, and it's just the way things are.
Yeah.
It's no different than the physical realm of espionage and so on, where you have agents, you have double agents, you have triple agents, you have imposters pretending to be this and so on. A lot of disinformation campaigns and adverse propaganda.
Right.
And some people who are very well-meaning and positive in the spiritual community who are being corrupted to never focus on anything negative. And they only talk about sweetness and light and manifesting and how everything is going to be wonderful and ascension is just around the corner and just stay positive and look to the light and they mean well, and they're giving a positive, real message that's sincere. But by not ever looking at what happens to not be going well, they have been diverted.
Right.
So I don't mean to criticize anyone, but it's the way it is. Look around and you'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean,
sometimes you got to call 911 and get help.
Yeah, and sometimes you need to expose things that aren't comfortable to see and call them what they are rather than trying to sugarcoat them or turn them into something that. I mean, Pizzagate is a great example of that. Something that needs to be revealed and then ultimately forgiven. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention in addition to that is that if anybody wants to learn more about what Karl does and how he does it, I would invite them to go to his website, tmarkangel.com, where he's actually got quite a bit of information there describing what he does for his clients and whatnot. And some of these points are fully fleshed out there, maybe even more so than what we could do in a video environment. So I invite people. The link is going to be in the description below, so please check that out if you have a chance. Okay, so Karl, if we're ready, let's go ahead and start with Ann Robards.
All right.
Okay.
This is Ann Robards speaking.
Hi, Ann. Thank you for joining us. We were told that you were somehow involved with the extraterrestrial slave colony, and we have some questions for you. How were you and your family involved with or abducted or lured into the extraterrestrial slave colony?
We all were victimized in this way. My entire family was removed and transported off planet. We had been involved in the alien abduction program through past eras and were of interest to them and targeted by them in this long-standing program that is underway to both understand and to subjugate human through manipulating the DNA. This has been done on a planet-wide basis, and they have corrupted the human genome heavily. And this is an extension of what was done way back in the earliest of times by the Anunnaki to disconnect humans from their spiritual origins and their source of information and the flow of love that is available from Creator directly. The event that happened for me personally and my family was that we were removed from our home in the dead of night and taken as a group aboard a vessel and then flown to a distant site through a kind of gateway or portal in space where the warping of space-time allows quite distant travel, many, many light years beyond the current location of Earth itself. So this is how space travel is done by the advanced beings. They can move locally and they can move through a kind of wormhole, and this is a distortion in time-space reality that allows a re-emergence at another time and place. So it allows traveling great distance as well as traveling into future and past. This space colony is a holding pen, so to speak, for humans to acclimate them to slave duty so that we can serve the alien masters as servants, as lackeys, as a cheap source of labor, and as a kind of plaything and toy for them to subjugate and to suppress. Their energy is one of wanting power and control, and they delight in having people as pets in a sense, although it is much harsher treatment than humans would do for their pets, which they usually love. In this case, it is a kind of disdain and negativity that is conveyed by the masters. So myself, my husband, and my 3 children were all brought to this colony, and the reason that family groups were removed is to have a self-perpetuating group of humans that can continue to propagate on site and be culled as one would cull cattle for the stronger ones, the more useful, the more adaptable and flexible and talented for the purposes they serve. The troublemakers, the weak, in a sense of being able to follow a rigid program of rules, are culled through being summarily executed and eliminated. This existence is the harshest one can imagine because it is a complete separation and divorce from reality as humans know it. Even when a human is in a prison, a physical prison, even on a desert island, they at least know they are on the earth, and there is always the dream and hope of escape one day, or rescue by a fellow human who hears of their plight. The separation across space of many light years creates such a profound hopelessness. I cannot overstate the dire circumstances faced by these individuals. This is continuing to this very moment. I escaped through death and then returned to the light. And this is the reason I am available to talk with you.
Okay. When did this happen? When were you taken from Earth?
This was approximately 3 decades ago, and it was done as part of a large-scale effort. The colony consists of at least 50,000 human souls who are involved, and these are dispersed across this planet as needed to provide local servicing of the needs of the masters. And the great misfortune is that the state is quite hopeless for these people. And so my hope in conveying this knowledge is to help humans still enjoying their lives to remember these people and to reach out to the divine realm with their thoughts and prayers. And the more this is done, the more comfort can be sent to them, and the more that their world can brighten, and the closer the day comes when the colony may be rescued. This has been done before and can be done again with a sufficient human interest in saving their brethren. This, like all Earth problems, remains in the hands of the Earth population for the time being, and only your actions count. The divine realm will not act unilaterally. They need a human purpose and intention that they can amplify and join. Until that happens, they must stand aside and allow things to play out. This is a tough lesson and a tough situation to endure, but it is not so different from all the times in human history when there have been slave masters and vicious rulers who subjugated people and killed countless innocent subjects to glorify their reach and control and satisfy a true bloodlust. So things have improved on Earth for many, but not for these unfortunate few who are enslaved.
Okay, so where on Earth did you live when you were taken?
We were living in Cleveland. This was our home, and this is where we were when the disappearance happened. There have been disappearances of humans all over the world, and this is so commonplace that it is scarcely given much attention. While many people do resurface because their disappearance was a self-chosen act to relocate or to avoid and terminate links to people they no longer wish to associate with. There are many, many unsolved disappearances. They're typically attributed to the misfortune of running into a criminal or having an accidental death while not carrying sufficient identification to assign a name or make a link to family and so forth, the prosaic explanations. But there is a pattern there one can look at and see that even through recent times, there is a systematic harvesting of human beings on a large scale happening all the time. This is parallel to the abduction program, as many people perish because of harsh treatment in the slave colony itself and need to be replaced. The internal breeding program to self-sustain has not been sufficient to do the replacements needed, for many, many humans are summarily killed for sport and entertainment. And this is done in the most cruel and crude fashion without much regard to the consequences of the aims of the program itself, because they know there is always fresh game available, so to speak, and they can come and collect new specimens. The ideal for them is to have lackeys who are totally complacent and cooperative in all respects. But there is an undercurrent of violence and hatred always present, and a secret delight in being able to inflict punishment on those who would misbehave and break the rules. And this can result in execution on the spot or the application of a punishment to turn it into a spectacle, much like the gladiators of old, where humans are pitted against one another in a fight for survival and are made to inflict one another so that no energy is required of the alien beings themselves, who are left to relax and enjoy the spectacle and savor the oncoming slaughter that they have set in motion. This is the darkest possible situation humans could find themselves within. It is as primitive as anything having taken place through human history. There are many atrocities and many instances of the most extreme kind of torture and suffering. So I am not holding back here other than to not give you a blow-by-blow description. And the reason is that the plight is so dire and situations so severe that it is impossible to overstate the extreme duress and dire circumstances faced by all who fall prey to this manipulation. And so this you can add to the information about the abduction program and ongoing manipulation of humans who are simply taken at intervals but return to their homes with little or no awareness something has happened. This is a total redirection and co-opting of their lives, and a period of torment and torture that will leave much negative karmic wounding that will need many lifetimes to heal. The damage is extreme and will be resonating through all of time. And so this is yet another reason to sound the alarm about the extraterrestrials and their presence here in Earth plane and the danger they represent. They are far from done with this program.
Okay. I'm going to combine the next two questions into one question. It's actually three questions, so you'll pardon me, but I think they should probably go together. So the question is, were you taken by humans or extraterrestrials? Did you come into contact with extraterrestrials? And if so, can you describe them?
The extraterrestrials who are the perpetrators of this particular tragedy are the reptilians, and they are in an alliance with the Arcturian Greys and participate in abductions on many occasions. But in the case of those who are harvested for the slave colony, the collections are done typically by the reptilians themselves. And the reason is that they may wish to take people who have value for the gene manipulation program out from under the grave, which they would not approve of because they would lose to their minds valuable subjects still needed for further testing and study. The reptilians, being quite self-centered and selfish, will completely flaunt the terms of the alliance to serve their selfish interests and are quite ready to remove humans, even valuable test subjects, if they take a liking to them for whatever reason. So we were taken by reptilians aboard a reptilian vessel and were taken to their colony to be used as slaves. And this is a place inhabited strictly by reptilians and is a major home base for them. And so the arrangement the extraterrestrials have is very much to serve themselves first, and then secondarily the alliance. So this is a source of friction and will help the cause to bring this detail forward as well, because the powers that be are always watching, and they will hear these words eventually, and this will add some discord within the ranks, so to speak. So the lesson for the existing human is to never trust an extraterrestrial being, because you will not be able to discern who is friend or foe. You may well be approached in a friendly, benign fashion, but there will always be an ulterior motive. It may not end in tragedy, but it may be a beginning to enlist a sense of trust and complacency that would lead to greater and greater cooperation, and then a willingness to cooperate. And this they endeavor to obtain at first in most subjects, because they have learned humans can be quite unruly because of their emotional nature. And they gain most by duping them to believe they are serving a higher cause. They are part of a secret covert problem, a program run by their own government, for example, and the extraterrestrials are simply cooperating and assisting, and this will be a true breakthrough for humanity, and so on and so on. These are always cover stories. There is no human government extraterrestrial cooperation at this time that is leading to anything positive or good. There are simply no humans in positions of authority or power who are trustworthy at this point. All are heavily corrupted, all are subjugated by mind control manipulation. And this is done on multiple levels, as we know you have heard described for you, through the subliminal messaging coming through all electronic media, music, radio, and television, and internet connections. All feed a continuous stream of electromagnetic signals below conscious awareness or perception by ordinary senses, but feed internal devices that are ingested by the people themselves, because their air, food, and water are contaminated with microchips that are designed to transduce such signals and feed them into the neurons of the brain and provide ongoing messages 24 hours a day. The alien psychics communicate directly to the subconscious minds of individuals they wish to manipulate further and to speed things up or to provide an overlay of greater certainty when they may be in positions of power and needed to act in a way contrary to their spiritual inclinations and carry out a dark deed that serves the extraterrestrial agenda. This is how the leadership can come under the thumb of the extraterrestrial design. It has been going on throughout history, and they are quite skilled. The advent of all the electronic media in connecting everyone together has the potential to allow sharing of knowledge as you are doing and seeing before you, where truth is shining through. But there is a greater downside in that all are then subjected directly to the reach of the extraterrestrial message. And so the cost is quite large that is paid for the power of connectivity. So we are saying here that one needs to be cautious with all messages received, to follow the heart and not the mind, and to listen to the higher calling of the spiritual link that is there within each person, to ask what is most aligned with love in what they hear. Is the intention pure? Is the intention for the greater good? Or is there something self-serving to be flattering for the messenger, or to serve their ego in some way, or perhaps an outsized financial gain or position of power and authority they can wield through becoming a follower and so forth? It is a fine line, and this is the path of all who go into public service, that they become targeted and then increasingly manipulated and subjugated. So this is simply the way things are. We are fortunate in being able to share these thoughts and are witnessing of this dire circumstance, and are quite delighted because we have many loved ones, those who we came to know, who suffer still and are wanting a rescue very much, and with all our being. The divine realm will be able to do this once there is a tipping point reached in human interest and desire for a rescue to happen. So there must first be the awareness of those left behind that their compatriots are under threat and need their help. It is too late for those trapped in that circumstance, as their subjugation is so severe they cannot mount a self-defense any longer. And they, for the most part, have long ago given up on God or any divine assistance. And they are, as a result, weakened to such an extent their belief is not there in divine assistance, and the divine realm cannot rush to their aid. This is the harsh lesson all learn eventually who interact with the light, that there are quite concise but hard and fast rules about what power the divine realm will bring into the human physical realm. The humans are in charge. It is that simple. You are the ones with power, as the divine realm stands aside to allow the humans the opportunity to run their world. This is a tall order with the level of subjugation, but nonetheless is the current circumstance. The hope lies in both in the community of whistleblowers and seekers of the truth who know something is deeply wrong and want to learn more. They are the ones who are escaping the mind control and are in a position to make changes through directing their thoughts towards the divine realm to bring in assistance to further the cause. This is all that is required. And to do so effectively, they need to stand strong. They need to believe. They need to act without fear, and to act through a perspective of loving acceptance and a willingness to forgive those who are the oppressors, to seek love for all, and especially for themselves and their loved ones. And if they hold that vibration and that intention, the divine realm can act through them quite readily, because they will be on the same wavelength as the light.
Okay. So I'm going to combine some more related questions in the interest of time. On which planet were you held? And what is the name of the base where you were held? And what is the name of the planet and the name of the place where you performed your slave duties?